Hello, Steph McMahon again. You're fine. Okay, sorry. Just pull up a few more chairs, guys. Tonight I'm bringing to you an ordinance amending a redevelopment agreement with Icon Hospitality. Background for this is while continued progress is being made on the renovation of the Hotel Royer, the ongoing impact of the pandemic has led the developer, Icon Hospitality, to request a second extension of the project occupancy date of the hotel, as defined by the redevelopment agreement, from August 31st, 2023 to February 29th, 2024. This would be the third amendment of the original redevelopment agreement. The ongoing supply chain disruptions due to the pandemic and lengthened lead times for materials and equipment continue to be an issue, thereby bringing upon this request. The original redevelopment agreement for the former Landmark Hotel was passed in June of 2019 between the City of Urbana and Markson's affiliates. This agreement outlined the city's investment of $5.5 million in the project via bond issuance upon the developer obtaining the following: a certificate of occupancy for the hotel and restaurant, final approval for the property to be operated and maintained as a Hilton Tapestry brand hotel, and equity or permanent debt financing for the balance of the cost of the project. Revenue to pay the bond for the hotel investment would be realized through tax increment from the increased assessed value in the renovated property, food and beverage taxes, hotel motel taxes, and a new boutique hotel tax. In 2020, Icon Hospitality requested a one-year extension from the original commencement date to July 1, 2021, with a corresponding extension of the 18-month project timeline to completion. Due to the unforeseen circumstances that arose with the pandemic and subsequent shelter-in-place orders, the council agreed that this extension was well-founded and passed the ordinance to amend the agreement on November 2nd, 2020. This ordinance also acknowledged an assignment of the agreement from Markson's to Icon Hospitality. In 2022, Icon Hospitality requested an additional 8-month extension of the 18-month project timeline to completion, extending the project occupancy date to August 31st, 2023. The council agreed that this extension was well-founded and passed the ordinance to amend the agreement on November 21st, 2022. Renovation work on the Hotel Royer has been steady since the commencement of work in July of 2021. Exterior work is now complete and work is focused on the interior finishes. The guest rooms are at various stages of completion, with many rooms fully furnished and awaiting completion of punch list items. Concrete work in the pool area is complete. Wallpaper and carpeting is being installed in the meeting spaces. Key managerial and sales positions within the hotel have been filled to start marketing and selling the convention space and rooms for large events. The many other positions needed to run the day-to-day operations of the hotel will not be filled until closer to opening. The Hotel Royer is being advertised on the Hilton website with a starting date of reservations of November 28th, 2023. The redevelopment project has already resulted in the most significant renovation this historic property has seen in over 37 years. The developers are returning the property to its highest and best use, which will generate new tax revenues, bring visitors and commerce to the downtown area, and restore this iconic and historic building in the heart of downtown Urbana. Council members were provided tours of the Hotel Royer on Friday, June 30th. The tours were staggered to comply with the Open Meetings Act restrictions. Staff also requested feedback from council members as to their level of support for extending the redevelopment agreement again. The feedback ranged from general support for the requested extension to limiting the extension and/or reducing the incentive in exchange for a more prolonged extension. The draft text of the third amendment to the redevelopment agreement, which is attached, includes the extension date as requested by the developer. This date was supported by most council members. Based on additional feedback from council members, the council may want to consider adding language that would diminish the incentive in the event that the deadline is missed. For example, for any portion of each month beyond February 29th, 2024, that the project occupancy date occurs, a reimbursement amount could be reduced by a set amount. Staff recommends that an extension of the project occupancy date be granted until February 29th, 2024. Staff also recommends that a predetermined reduction in the incentive be built into the agreement so that the developer understands precisely what is at stake by missing the project occupancy date. And we have members of the Icon Hospitality staff or ownership here, so I'll ask them to introduce themselves, and we're all available to answer any questions you have.
Can I ask folks who are going to stay up here to sit down too so that people behind can see? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Joseph Pryor. I'm the Corporate Director of Operations and Development for Icon Hospitality and Marquee Ventures.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pervaiz. I'm with the ownership at Icon Hospitality.
Good evening. I'm Pervaiz Usman. I'm the CEO of the company, and I'm with the Icon and the Marquee Ventures for this project here.
And with us we have the rest of our team. We have Tony Nabhan, who is our general manager at the Hotel Royer Tapestry Collection by Hilton. We have Rose Gag, who is our director of sales.
We have Morgan Williams, who's our sales and catering manager, and we have Elizabeth Mooney, our sales manager.
So we have a fully staffed team and are very eager to open this hotel. Today I stand before you on behalf of Icon Hospitality to address the issue of the delay in the development of the Hotel Royer Tapestry Collection by Hilton. As a developer of the hotel that has spent over 4 years working on this project, from planning to construction, no one is as committed and concerned ensuring the project reaches completion as we are. Every day that passes without the opening of the hotel causes increased cost burden on the developer, from interest charges, payroll costs, increased construction costs, property tax, insurance, and a myriad of other expenses, and all without revenue coming into the hotel. The development of this hotel has progressed rapidly despite numerous hurdles that were unknown to us at the onset of the project and could not have been accounted for during the pre-construction phase. The COVID-19 pandemic has created supply chain and labor shortages that are unlike ever seen before. The nature of a 100-year-old historic property is such that numerous challenges need to be addressed to upgrade a property to such an extensive extent. The development agreement is structured such that the TIF funds is a minor portion of the total cost and will only be provided on the opening of the hotel, and as such, the developer is bearing the burden of the project. This project was extremely challenging and required our team's full attention and efforts. Multiple other developers have failed or refused to dive into this project due to the scope of restoring a historic 100-year-old hotel. There were numerous unforeseen hurdles with the property and supply chain labor issues that have made the situation even more difficult. For example, the property spans 2 buildings, one that was built in the 1920s and one that was built in the 1980s. The hotel has 131 guest rooms with 35 different room types. A typical hotel would have 6 to 8 room types. And also the hotel has over 8,000 square feet of meeting space, a full fitness center, a full swimming pool, a restaurant, and a bar. Our team has invested considerable time, energy, and funds to ensure that this project reaches completion. We remain committed to completing this project as early as physically possible, as it costs us immense resources to not have the hotel open. We are transforming this hotel into a luxury upscale hotel that is unlike any other hotel in the country. Even Hilton's development team that oversees the development of thousands of hotels has commemorated this property on its beautiful design and historic nature. We feel that the language of a penalty provides additional hardship to the developer. As we all know, development projects like this can be complex undertakings influenced by a myriad of factors beyond the developer's control, especially when the property is such a historic building. Unforeseen challenges of supply chain disruptions, labor shortages can significantly impact the timeline of a project. In light of this, it is crucial for us to recognize the genuine efforts made by us as the developers and our commitment to completing the project successfully. By refraining from imposing penalties, the city demonstrates their support for the business community and encourages investment in Urbana. Penalizing the developer for circumstances beyond their control could create a disincentive for future investments, hindering economic growth and development. We encourage the city to focus on the development of this hotel and how this hotel can affect the community. and create jobs, revitalize the local downtown economy, and enhance the city's infrastructure. In conclusion, I urge the city and the city council to exercise foresight, empathy, and pragmatism in this matter. Let us refrain from imposing harsh penalties and instead foster an environment of cooperation and understanding. By doing so, we can nurture a thriving business community and encourage a brighter future for the downtown of Urbana. We are near the finish line of this difficult project and appreciate the city's continued support. We thank everyone for their time.
Any questions? Chris?
Well, I don't have a question as much as a comment. I agree. I don't understand why we're doing this penalty crap. And my allegiance is with the workers. I go by that project every day, and I see how hard those crews are working on this building. And what you want is this building to be done right. That's what's going to sustain it for the long term. And for us to, we want it done by February. I mean, come on. This is you went through that building. This is a hard, difficult project. They are taking it back to the studs on just about every inch of that building. There's nothing like it. And Urbana is very lucky, extremely lucky, that a corporation has been willing to take it to this level, to invest this much money, and to bring it back, restore it, repair it, and make it better than it was. For us to get in a hurry and demand it get finished with penalties is, I don't know, it's rude and it's unproductive, and you got to be patient with these things. And you know when do you think you really could get it done and done right? I just want it done right, you know, and I think you guys are doing that, and I appreciate the effort and investment you're making to do it. So, you know, what if you did blow through that? And I don't want at the same time, you know, say, well, we can wait 2 more years. You know, I don't want it to just keep dragging it out forever at the same time. And I'm sure you don't either, because you want to start making money on this, right? I mean, so I don't know. What is your, I don't know, maybe you should comment on how realistic the February deadline that we've set for this.
We want to open tomorrow. We have invested money. Right. And we are putting money and our efforts every single day. We are worn out. Look at our team, tired. Look at us, tired. It's not an easy project, and you know it, we know it. And realistically, this project is almost done. There are few things which needs to be done, and we cannot open till city give us an occupancy permit. And when we will get it, we don't know. We need the extension, definitely. I'm giving you example, like we had a meeting last Monday. I was really sick, and I had an eye infection. I couldn't even drive. And I was driving to Urbana. My car got tire flat. By the time I got here, I was really sick. I was just sitting on the floor. Joseph came, you look really sick. What is happening, Pervaiz? Are you really, really sick? I said, I'm tired, but I will make sure I will get this project done. This project is almost 90% done. And what we are asking as a developer, we have not even put our investment, we have put our health also here. And we are worn out. It's running around with 2 different buildings. It was not an easy project. If you were doing ground up, it would be much easier, ground up. You can do it. Every day we come up with some different situations with 100-year-old building. We fight with it, we get it done. And we are getting it done, and we are promising it. It will be one of the projects of the country. The Hilton team came here, they loved it. But we have to open it right. I can't open it, just open it, you come and sleeping in a room. This is not Motel 6, this is not Comfort Inn. This is Hilton, a tapestry collection by Hilton. It's a 4-star hotel. The city is really getting a really good product, and we are working very hard for this. I will request we should be granted the extension, and we should not be punished.
Any other questions? Grace?
2 questions here. I think one, maybe for Steph or staff, is what is the hypothetical scenario if this is not completed by the end of this extension without the reduction in funds? I mean, I know so far we've been doing extension after another extension. Would that be the thing, or does this contract have a kind of end thing?
If there's nothing written in about what happens if the deadline is missed, then they would be in this situation again, which is they would have to come back and ask for another extension, because without the extension, then they don't qualify for the incentive.
Thank you. And then my other question was back to our Hotel Royer Icon leadership teams. As far as I agree with you about having to open it right, I agree with that. A concern I've had that we mentioned in the other sessions when we were touring was that the Tapestry website having that this can book in November. So my question is, can we take that off the website? Because I think that that is not going to be a good way to start in the community when people think it's going to be open when you know it's not going to be ready by then, right?
We are trying our best to open it before that. We need an extension for our safe side. We are trying to open before February, before November, but I cannot put a promise here because delay of the equipment or delay of some material can happen. That's why we are asking. If you look at it, I don't know, you have visited the property also, you might have seen that most of the work has already been done. We are almost getting towards the we're getting closer to opening. But there are many things. We can't open without the occupancy permit. And to get the occupancy permit, there are requirements of the city which we have to fulfill. And there are some equipment which we are waiting for, which we ordered a long time ago. And we are waiting for that. So if you look at the rooms, most of the rooms are ready. The furniture has been installed. Carpet has been done. For the meeting rooms, carpet has been installed. And the longest time it takes is the work which you needed before putting your final finishes. And final finishes gets done a lot faster, and that's what we are almost getting it done now.
Sure. I'm just saying that I think that that's a concern if people are booking on the website when it will not be ready and they have to be somewhere else. I also think that some of this is a little dishonest, the renderings of what it will look like when this is not what it did look like. I know that it will, but it's just that's not what the downstairs looks like yet. So I just, as far as having a good perception for the public, I think being honest about when it will be available and what it will be, I think will be a really good way for you to have that public positive opening that you're looking for.
So definitely we will look into this one for the opening date, and our team and Hilton, we have to discuss together, and then we can give the date. Definitely we will look into it.
And we discuss with Hilton weekly on the booking site and making sure that we're doing our best to be as accurate as possible on the opening dates. So we meet with them and discuss with them on a weekly basis so we can make these adjustments in real time.
Sure, which I
And-
definitely
and
appreciate.
Hilton wants us to open the booking because the day when you open, you are not empty. So you start, that's why this is the guidance comes from them. So, but we'll discuss this concern also with them.
Sure, because I think it was also earlier stated that it was August start date, which didn't happen, and people got heard word of it, and rumors start spreading around, and so I think just to be careful about what you can start spreading around word of mouth in this town. Yeah.
Chandra?
Carol, were there stipulations with the second extension, and were they met?
There were no stipulations.
Okay.
Charisse?
I suppose my biggest question is if if in fact you're going to have a soft opening in November, I'm assuming it's going to be a soft opening of sorts. It seems like you would have to advertise for staff and so on and so forth no later than September to start staffing. Do you already have that kind of thing in place where that's going to be happening?
Joseph, you want to give the answer?
Sure. Yeah, we already started a process of interviewing, selecting, going through different applications. We have job ads open for certain positions. As you can see, we have already a few key positions. We're missing one of our the director of engineering, who's not here, but we already have that, along with another maintenance person. We're looking to get or find the third person in engineering. For the rest of the team, it is very important that we know exactly when we can open. We have already some people on the payroll, and that's money that we are spending, and we're not able to make any revenue. So I think as soon as we know when we have our program date for opening, that's when we hire the rest of the staff, which shouldn't take very long. We can staff within a month. People
Okay.
are looking for jobs.
Okay, and as far as even with the soft opening, that I'm assuming that the kitchen and everything else will be working. There'll be a menu, there'll be chef, there'll be
Correct.
servers and so on and so forth ready to go in November.
Mhm.
Okie dokie.
Chandra?
You're saying when you know when you can open, you're in charge of setting the date, correct? We're not in charge of setting your opening date. We're here to understand when your opening date will be. So it's up to you to tell us when your opening date. You're saying February, but maybe you can be open by November. There's so much wishy-washiness here.
So
If
as-
you've set a date, then you are bound by that date. You do everything you can to make that date. We're here looking at the third extension. I mean, I understand, logistics and all of that has, not gone the way you want, and you've had to redo some work because, some things have gone, not well with inspections. But you're setting the date. So if you set the date, you should stick by that date.
Well, I think we can stick by a date, but without having the equipment and materials that we've been mentioning, we wouldn't know exactly what our date would be.
So you still don't know, have an idea when that equipment or furniture or whatever will be coming in?
That's why we want to plan on having an extension, just to be safe.
Any further discussion, or is there a motion?
Some of these equipment is not in our hand, it's in manufacturer, and we talk to the manufacturers and the distributors pretty much on the ongoing basis. And a lot of time they inform us that they're just waiting for one part. And then what part is coming from overseas, when it will come and it's shortage, they say that everything is ready, it's one part. And that's why we have a target, we put our target for opening. But because of these situation, COVID and the shortage, that has not been the case before COVID. I mean, they were giving certain dates, and that's were almost firm. And now the dates are not getting almost firm because we want to open in November, and we're trying our best. But if one equipment, one part is missing, it's not in our hand. That's why we are requesting for this extension. But if you see, look at the work which is in our hand, which we are getting it done. And that's why the 90% of the work is done.
Grace, did you have a question or comment?
I was going to make a motion.
Okay.
I would move ordinance number 2023-07-022, an ordinance amending a redevelopment agreement with Icon Hospitality LLC to the regular agenda as proposed without the reduction. I'm trying to look at the actual ordinance. I think the ordinance has a XX per month one already in it. Is that right?
The amendment that the ordinance refers to has that in it.
Okay, but the ordinance itself does not.
Correct.
Okay, then just the regular ordinance to the regular agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Moved by Grace and seconded by Sharice. Any further discussion? Sharice?
But I just want to, I want to explain why I'm going to agree with this. I had to wait 6 months for a refrigerator filter, okay? And so I can empathize with, and actually it was more than 6 months, and we had already paid for it. And in that 6 months' time, my mom's refrigerator got down to one last filter. And, you know, we were going to the red dot before, and we ended up having to order other filters because the ones that I ordered did not get there in 6 months, and then those were late too. So I understand what's called supply side issue. I do understand that, because for me it was just something that small, but when it's something that is maybe a wolf range stove or oven or something, and having temp there, I know that can be an issue as well. So I'm willing to give you this benefit of the doubt. And that's something I do very often. So I hope that everything turns out well.
Any further discussion? Chandra?
Yeah, I understand logistical issues too, but when we took the tour, there were, I mean, and granted, I'm not a developer or whatever, but it seemed like there was much more than just furniture or things that needed to be placed. There was still actual construction stuff being done, walls still open. That's the problem I'm having with it, and whatever. But I would say that this is the last and final extension, and I don't know if we can add that into that language into the ordinance or whatever, that this is the last extension to be offered.
That's for you and your colleagues to thrash out.
Well, I'm willing to make an amendment to the ordinance to say that this is the last extension before there is an impact on finances.
That was moved by Grace. I don't know if you accept that amendment? Or is that a separate motion to amend it? The motion on the floor is to move for approval. So,
I think I would keep my original motion, but you can move an amendment.
Madam Clerk, can you clarify the process for us on this?
Okay, you're moving to send this forward. Is that what you're doing, Grace?
That was the motion, and then I think the question is, can we add an amendment to that?
You can always amend a motion before it take its final vote.
But does it have to
So-
be me who moved it, or could someone else make an amendment?
It would have to be agreed by the mover and the seconder before it can be amended.
Okay, so how about I'll amend it, because we'll vote on that amendment first, right? And then the full thing. Oh, okay.
We will request that, please.
Sorry, let me, so you don't have to accept that amendment. We can vote and then see what happens. And if it doesn't pass, then we could vote on an amended version if that felt appropriate at the time.
Yeah, I
Is that
think
not correct?
That's correct,
That's not
Jaya.
correct either?
I think that in order for you to amend that motion,
Yeah.
it has to be approved by the mover and the seconder before the motion is presented.
But the problem is then we don't get to vote on the amendment. Then we just vote on it yes or no as amended.
That's correct.
Okay.
So you get to decide if you are accepting that amendment. That's the next step. And then that's the step after.
I have to decide right now. Oh, gosh. I say no, because my thoughts, what I was going to say here is that I think we can always have the opportunity to cross that bridge when we get to it. I do think that in spirit, yes, in my mind, this is what I'm thinking. This is hopefully better be the last extension, but I don't feel confident enough in that to have it in writing now, just with outside circumstances or whatever else might happen. So I think I would choose to not amend the original motion.
All right, so that's,
And I agree with that.
the motion stands as it was previously stated. Any further discussion? Grace?
So again, while I do agree with that in spirit, I agree with my fellow council member Chandra here, and it seems like getting some head nods from also the partners here that we hope and expect that this is the last extension. But I think that I'm willing to cross that bridge when we get to it if we need to. And I also just want to say that I appreciate you taking on this really big project in our historic downtown building. I think that's great, and a lot of people have been wanting to see this revitalized, and especially with the appreciation that it would be a lot easier for you to just build from scratch from the ground up and leave this historic building there. I also just would want to mention too about the construction, that when we saw on tours, what I saw is I did see that the rooms look great with all of their unique sizes and everything else, and that there's still a lot of work in the downstairs common areas. So I did also just want to clarify, you'd mentioned that the city needs to have the certificate of occupancy, but I also wanted to clarify that that depends on construction, I imagine, and meeting our basic standards. It's not that we as the city are holding up the process with our certificate or imposing excessive standards. It's that the building's not finished yet. It's not finished being constructed, and that's the big issue here. And I understand that there are lots of holdups with supply chains that have been still continuing after COVID. So I am in support of this extension, and I am willing to get to that reduction when we get there, but I'm not willing to commit to that yet.
Chris?
Yeah, I just want to say that as one who took the tour, there is a lot of work to be done. I mean, there just is. I mean, you can't hide that. I mean, you say you're 90% finished. Man, I don't see it. I think you got a lot of work to do. And again, I appreciate the effort, the investment, and those workers doing what they're doing. But this is a big, big project, and there's a lot of work to be done.
Couple quick comments. I agree with what's already been stated. I think making sure that it's done and done right is really important for us. But I also will say that if this comes back in front of us, I will be paying attention to what date is listed on the website and what date it actually moves forward, whether for another request for an extension or an amendment. I think that point about trust, that's vital to us here in Urbana. And if it's being advertised as opening at one date and we're being told something else, that doesn't look good. So I strongly encourage you to talk to Hilton about that opening date if you don't think you can actually make it, since you're listing it as when it'll be opened with them. But we have a recommendation that's been moved by Grace and seconded by Charisse to move ordinance number 2023-07-022, an ordinance amending a redevelopment agreement with Icon Hospitality LLC onto approval for the city council on the regular agenda. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Hersey?
Yes.
Ms. Colacetti?
Yes.
Ms. Bishop?
No.
Ms. Wilkin?
Yes.
That motion passes. Thank you. Next, I'd like to recommend ordinance number 2023-07-022, an ordinance amending a redevelopment agreement with Icon Hospitality LLC for approval on behalf of the Committee of the Whole. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Jaya, seconded by Sharice. Any discussion? And I will note that you received a follow-up memo from Carol, the city administrator. The ordinance that you discussed last week has not changed, and the amendment to the redevelopment agreement was revised per your direction. So section 2 that referred to a reduction in the reimbursement amount was removed per your direction. Otherwise, everything's the same. Discussion? James?
Yes, since I wasn't able to participate last week because I was out of town and not qualified to participate remotely because of my absence, I did want to mention this. I was probably one of the individuals who, in the council 2x2's discussions of this, who suggested the idea of a reduction of compensation if the project missed another due date. And that was because there's a long way to go with this project. I was able to avail myself of a tour. I'm very hopeful. I'm very appreciative of the work that's been done. I'm looking forward to the outcome, but I was concerned about when I read that the comment was it's 90% complete. It's not 90% complete. If you've been inside of it, that's not the case. And so I suggested that idea of a diminishing compensation model as a way to set a future time at which we would no longer accept further delays. I do appreciate that it's its own penalty. The delay means that the organization is not making money. There's not people staying there. There's not income coming in. That's a penalty from a business perspective. But there has to be some sense of urgency to complete this project, and that it's not a set of goalposts that can move, every 3 or 4 months. I have high hopes for the vision and how it's starting to come together. I don't know if it's 50% done. I don't know if it's 75% done. It's not 90% done. So if we have this extension, and this is, I think, to February, if we're having this conversation again in February, I'm going to be adamant that there has to be some kind of counter incentive. It's not uncommon in this kind of development program or in a construction project to have hard deadlines for developers to meet to accomplish the reimbursement that they expect from city funds. And so I'm okay with it as it is right now, but I just wanted to share. That's why I suggested that in the meeting that Chris and I attended together. And that's why I think if we're having this conversation again in February, and I'm worried that we might be, I'm going to insist on it at that time. Thanks.
Mary Alice?
Yeah, I just have to agree with James. I was away last week as well. My thoughts were very similar in that I think that we've been accommodating to all of the supply chain problems and the labor constraints that have happened. I'm very pleased to see when I came and saw what they had done, but the kitchen isn't in. There's big components that aren't in yet. They're certainly finishing up the rooms. But I don't think that, very hard for me to estimate the percentage that is complete, but I am going to be very reticent to extend this beyond February, and I won't extend it with the beyond February with the same amount that we're already committed to. So I just kind of wanted to make that public statement so that everybody is aware. Thank you.
Jaya?
Yeah, thank you. I would echo, even though I was here, I felt like putting something that was arbitrary or moving didn't feel appropriate to me. But I meant it very seriously, too, that if they are advertising the hotel to be open in November and they do not complete it until February, that is a complete breaking of trust with our community, and I expect that they will actually be honest with our community, especially if they come back asking for another extension. I do not anticipate approving another extension. I think we've been very patient and understanding with good reason. There are good reasons for the delays. But we also do expect that understanding and honesty from people doing business in Urbana as well.
Any other comments? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Hersey?
Yes.
Ms. Colacetti?
Yes.
Ms. Bishop?
Yes.
Mr. Quisenberry?
Yes.
That motion passes.